Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the WTF1 podcast, Russian Grand Prix edition. Russia, Sochi, the track that, well, I mean, we're coming into this very excited to talk about Lewis Hamilton winning by 50 plus seconds. And that's something that I'm here for. Because if you just looked at the result, you think, it's just been another Russian Grand Prix, although Bottas probably out of position if you looked at that. Anyway, welcome to the WTF1 podcast. Welcome to Tommy, the WTF1 founder, and Katie Fairman, the WTF1 editor. Have we recovered?
Just about. I mean, I can't believe it. We did jinx it in the last podcast. We said it's our duty to F1 to talk about how boring the race is going to be, and then, arguably race of the season.
Yeah, I definitely. I'd
even argue it's an all-time classic.
It is definitely. What? I mean, you've dropped a bombshell 1 minute into the podcast, Tommy, and I'm riding on that bombshell. I'm dropping one as well. I genuinely think it was the best race of the season, and it will go down as an all-time classic. Do you agree, Katie?
It's so difficult because we've had so many phenomenal races this year. And I think it's quite easy to obviously I know yesterday was special, don't get me wrong, but it's quite easy to take the most recent race and be like, wow, that was amazing. That was a classic. But we've had so many incredible races this year that I would argue could also go down as classic. So I think it's just this season is just like every single race is like more and more like better than the last one. So
hello to Frank, who has decided your opinions are worthless. Katie, left the room. Did not fancy Tommy's dog. Did not fancy any more of that opinion.
Frank, we're gonna have beef.
And now he wants to bark as well. So Tommy's going to sort him out. But that's interesting. I know what you mean. Obviously, when it's fresh in the mind, you think, wow, I don't think there's anything that tops that. But I genuinely think it is probably the best race of the season, just from everything that went on, the drama at the end as well. It had everything you could possibly want. If you're a neutral, if you're a Lando fan, maybe not. Anyway, moving on. Just want to say hello to the Team WTF1 members that are watching this live. And also, we are hosting a Team WTF1 karting event at Daytona Milton Keynes. There'll be special guests and us there. So check the link in the description to find out more. It's coming up in, only a couple of weeks, isn't it now? It's not far away.
Next month, 22nd of October.
22nd, so three or so weeks away. So, get involved. There's lots of fun stuff, and you'll be karting for it's an endurance race as well, so it should be very fun indeed. There you go. Tommy, are you feeling good about some three-word race reviews? I think we are. I don't know why I threw it to you.
I was like, am I reading them this week?
I actually really enjoyed how much panic went into your eyes then.
It was like a really early final thoughts.
I was about to ask for your three-word race review. I was like, that's much later in the sheet. Some three-word race reviews from fans. Running in Vienna says 100 for Lewis. Sir George W. Hamver How. I like that. And Luna Ray's X. So much heartbreak. Yeah, I think when I say, have you recovered, it's probably because you're not full on Lando stans. For the Lando fans out there that had pretty much come to probably accept that he was going to win that race, are definitely going to be hurting. I saw some comments about, needing 10 to 20 business days. I love how people have said that business days as well, which is longer than just days, which is amazing. Of course, we're going to talk about a lot of heartbreak, Lewis's amazing achievement, and how the hell Verstappen finished P2. Katie, shall we start off the discussion with your three-word race review, please?
Okay. Yeah. So mine is rain changed everything. And that is about
what
the rain.
What could you possibly mean by that? How
the
ambiguous?
Weather conditions. I know. Well, it's very rare in Formula One to get that much rain in the final few laps of a race, which I can see is one of the reasons why you guys think it probably is an all-time classic. But yeah, it meant that there was absolute chaos in the final few laps. Was Lando and Hamilton going to stay out, or are they going to pit for intermediates? They obviously had such a huge gap. Like, we can go into more of it later, but it was, a real risk versus reward kind of scenario. And unfortunately for Lando, the wrong decision was made, whether that was his decision, whether that was poor communications with the team. But either way, the win slipped from his grasp. And like you say, it was super heartbreaking. There's no British bias here or anything like that. It's just we want to see new people winning. Like, as much as I admire Hamilton's 100 career wins in Formula One, like absolutely incredible. We're watching the history books being rewritten in front of us. But it would have also been lovely for Lando to win. It would have been lovely for Carlos to win. Saying I'd be lovely for George to win is obviously true, but I don't think that was possible in his Williams. But yeah, us F1 fans just want something a little bit different, a nice feel-good story. And unfortunately, the weather gods were like, nah, not today.
Not today.
Not happening.
No, not today. Yeah, everyone thinks that sort of that phrase British bias going around. I think
I can't stand it.
People firstly forget that we're literally a fan channel and we are fans making content for other fans. We openly admit we have bias towards Verstappen for Tommy, Leclerc for me, Katie for Nico Rosberg, bit irrelevant. But, you know, we're at the end of the day, I'm more of a neutral, and I love watching Formula One that way because I get excited. If I would be running around naked in my living room if Mick Schumacher started winning, and he's definitely not British. Like that, you know, it's the underdog story which everybody loves to see. If Carlos was winning, like when it was Carlos versus Pierre for the winner Italian Grand Prix, I wasn't sat there going, "Oh, I wish Lando was winning." Like that's just not the way that we watch Formula One. Like we absolutely love just seeing a change in the sport. And I think I tweeted as well, like anybody taking it to Hamilton in particular, he is the greatest of our time. And anybody taking it to him, especially an underdog, is exciting. So anyway.
People have jumped on the British bias thing.
It's so boring.
This year, which is, I mean, it just shows that it's not like, it's just because Lando, George and Lewis are all really, really, really good, and they're all having really good seasons, and it's like, of course you're gonna applaud George Russell for qualifying third in a Williams. It's nothing to do with his nationality. If Nicholas Latifi popping it in like P4 on our watch alongs, we're going, you know, well done, like awesome job or whatever. So it is just that. But in terms of rain changed everything, it's funny that you say changed everything. Quite a funny stat is that in the last 5 laps, only Yuki Tsunoda was in the same position that he was in those 5 laps.
Of course it was
Every
Yuki.
single other driver changed positions, which shows how
I saw a graph.
Insane it was.
He was 17th, then it went down to 18th, then back up to 17th, and then he finished 17th. So I don't know if you mean from the before.
From literally like 5 laps and then 5 laps. Where they finished within 5 laps.
Yeah. I think within that he had a little change. Just a little one position.
Everyone
like, I feel risky, but he went down rather than up.
I feel like this season, any other Formula One season, we're getting that rain at the end of the race.
Yep.
On the podium, Mercedes, you know, got a 1-2. It's a really boring race, and we get the rain at the end. But we already had an incredible race, and 2021's like more. More chaos.
It's actually frightening, isn't it?
Ridiculous. This year is just absolutely bonkers.
Like Sochi, 2021 made Sochi good, made Paul Ricard good. Like it's just mind blowing. I was not
even good. Incredible.
Yeah.
Like genuinely one of the best races.
So true. Let's go back to the rain anyway, in general. And a question from Vapan Chand. How did McLaren weather team, I love that, the McLaren weather team, there's just the meteorologists there, get the info so wrong? They should have known if the weather was going to come hard or not. Wow, that's a very bad phrase of that. So I think it's very harsh to put like, wow, McLaren got it so wrong, everybody else got it so right. I was listening to team radios that they've released. I don't know if they released all of them like I was listening to because, you know, some random fan account does it. But you listen to every single team pretty much, and it is carnage, chaos. The drivers are going, nope, it's too dry. The teams are going, well, you know, it could change. And there are drivers out there, not just McLaren and teams, that got it wrong as well. I think they got it wrong with Leclerc, didn't they? They got it wrong with Gasly as well. That there were, and of course Norris. Yeah, and you know, there was clearly wrong decisions happening, not just at McLaren. Obviously, you are leading the race. Do you want to pit? Because I said it in IBR. If Lando pitted, Lewis would have carried on, I reckon. And then he would have looked like the mug. Like genuinely, to kind of put it on them that harshly when they're literally leading the race and they think, well, if we pit, we might be down that way. And if we don't, we might be down that way. It was literally a roll of the dice. Yes, some of the teams got it right, but those were the drivers that were further back who had less to lose. They were like, right, let's whack on some inters. And then they looked like the clever ones. when in reality, they're just willing to take the risk a bit more because of the fact they had less points to lose. Bottas being 0 points to lose and managed to finish 5th. So I think it's harsh to put too much, anger down.
It's no coincidence that the last to pit were Lando, who was obviously going to win the race, Alonso and Perez that were in amazing positions that could have got a podium.
Yeah.
And then the people that
Alonso
early,
got up to P3, didn't he?
Yeah. And then the people that pitted early were the ones that were out of position. So Verstappen, Bottas.
Yeah. Obviously, they could have done better. And I think, obviously hindsight's a beautiful thing, but McLaren could have looked at it and gone, well, if we pit for Inters, we can trundle around and we will finish P2 at the worst. But Lando and McLaren, to some degree, accepted Lando wants to win this. Let's do the strategy that he wants. So it's something they'll learn from, but they're not fighting for the world championship. Obviously, they're fighting Ferrari, but they've had an amazing result at Monza. So I can see why they went for the gamble.
Yeah, for me, it's a kind of, like you say, it's a hindsight situation at the start. For me, it's that extra lap that personally I find maybe not inexcusable, but like really dropped the ball. That while I think Lando had was losing it on the team radio, you could hear he was getting really frustrated, and you can't blame him. You can't blame him in the situation. Anyone would have been like that. You got your first win. The pressure is immense. Your first win is essentially being robbed from you because you had it. You were doing everything you needed to do, and then it rains. It's part of Formula One, and it's completely flipped the race on its head, and you must be thinking like, why me? What I can't understand is that once Hamilton had pitted, when Norris goes round again, how McLaren aren't screaming on the radio saying, I'm sorry, Lando, look, we know we said it's up to you, get in the pits. Because I looked at Chandok's tweet today. He tweeted that on lap 47, the rain starts, and obviously Bottas, Russell, Raikkonen pit. They're gambling, that's fair enough. Lewis and Norris do a lap that's 15 seconds off their dry pace, but you can still say, 15 seconds, they had such a huge lead, they want to keep going. But when Bottas is, and then it says Bottas on the Inters was making up 8 seconds a lap on the out lap of Norris. Now, once he'd gone round once, fair enough, they messed up there. Lando had the win in his sights. But surely McLaren, and also they got Danny Rick in the races on Inters, and they can see how fast he's going. And it was abysmal the next time he got round. I don't understand how the team have not just basically said to Lando, look, why are you not pitting? Like, sorry, we're overruling you now. Get in the pits. Otherwise, we're losing P2. Because essentially what happened was Lando said something along the lines of, no, we've got to stay out. And McLaren didn't respond and just went with it. But that's them losing P2 and eventually finished P7 when they still could have got P2, which I understand for Lando. He's like, probably doesn't care. At this rate, he's probably thinking, but for the team, you need to be maximizing the best result you can get. So I think they dropped the ball massively there, personally.
I think it's a wrong judgment, though. Again, like as I mentioned, it was absolutely crazy. It was not clear cut how much rain they were going to get. And I think Lando even said in his interview, when he came round again, it was still relatively dry in that area of the track. So it wasn't abysmal. It wasn't like, because then when he got halfway around that next lap, then it was like a flash flood and it was so much rain, which was crazy. And obviously McLaren, from what I can see, did not see that on the radar. So I think the only problem is probably their analysis of what was coming. They clearly didn't think it was going to be as much rain because, as I think they said as well, Lando was told the intensity was going to stay the same for the entire rest of the race. So by the time he's gone past again, flash floods happened, and then obviously he's screwed. So I think it's hard. It's harsh to say they massively dropped the ball because other teams also made the mistake. But yeah, it's a difficult one.
I can't understand when we're talking about McLaren and like the data and stuff that they had in terms of the weather conditions. Like they're not using iPhone app like a weather thing. Like they've all got really high-tech systems in place to tell them what the weather conditions are doing like that. So I am surprised. And obviously with Ricciardo, like you say, pitting for Inters, like it's not as if they'd said for both drivers to stay out. Obviously it's very easy watching it as a Formula One fan. in the comfort of your own home from your sofa, when you can see raindrops falling on the camera screen, and that the track and stuff is getting worse. But yeah, as a driver, I guess Lando's the only one who has to have that belief in himself that he can do it. And unfortunately, the competitive nature, I think, from Lando's side kind of overshadowed possibly what would have been, or obviously would have been, a better call to come in and pit. But Lewis was saying in an interview with Lando after the race that he was saying, were you telling the team that you didn't want to box for inters? And Lando was like, yeah, basically. And Lewis was saying, I was doing exactly the same thing, but in the end they basically overruled Lewis and said, no, coming in, like, we're making the call for you. But the whole thing is obviously mega disappointing. Naturally, it's going to be a bit of a blame game, but hopefully the team can learn from this. And luckily, Lando was still able to keep P7, because, of course, after he then did make the decision to pit, he went and had a, dangerous, I suppose you could call it that, but basically lost control while going into the pit, went back onto the racetrack, and you can't, once you go past the cone on the way into pit entry, you can't then go back out onto the track. We have. You think
he was quite lucky to get away with a reprimand for that? Because I know it's common sense was used, but the stewards don't tend to do that.
And they're not supposed to do.
They're not really supposed to do. It's wet and it's probably more dangerous anyway. I mean, I don't think it's a case of comparing the Tsunoda incident in Austria, and I've seen a lot of people doing that, where it's a dry track and he's gone over, but you could argue that's less dangerous, him popping a tiny wheel. I think he's quite fortunate to get away with.
I think he's massively fortunate.
At least not a penalty point or anything.
Yeah, I think the stewards said that they basically looked at like previous times where he had come into the pit, and that he has shown that he can do it at the right speeds and not go off or whatever. But at the end of the day, it was dangerous because he almost didn't have control of his car. Obviously, otherwise he would have gone into the pit lane. But yeah, Hamilton
British
did
bias
similar...
from the stewards. Any explanation?
Yeah. Well, Hamilton had something similar, if you remember, for the 2018 German Grand Prix, where we had the iconic in, and then out, and then all this kind of stuff. So, and he only got a reprimand for that, and that was his win on the line. Like, he had just won, and then it was all like overshadowed. Will he get the penalty? And the stewards gave him a reprimand for that. So, yeah, it is unusual. Like, we're seeing a few more reprimands being used. And for those that aren't aware, so if you get 3 reprimands, driving reprimands in the space of a season, you get a 10-pace grid drop at the race where you get your 3rd reprimand. So this is Lando's first one. Danny Rick got one earlier in the weekend. I think the person who's got the most at one point is, I think Sergio was on 2 at one point. But yeah, we haven't really seen the reprimands being used and like getting a penalty from it. But I think it was a little bit lenient from the stewards. And Lando was certain he was going to get a penalty anyway, speaking to like Sky Sports after the race. He's like watching the replay back and he's like, oh, well, that's a penalty anyway. Like, I think he was beyond the point of caring at this point. So yeah, lucky, I think.
Yeah, and again, that's what then causes more confusion with the fans when we see Tsunoda getting a penalty for crossing the white line. Lando doesn't, or does cross the white line significantly, comes back over, and then the only difference is the conditions. But I don't think that, well, I haven't read the entire regulations, Katie, you probably have, that it says, oh no, if there is adverse weather conditions and you are running dry tyres, then you may just be given a warning. Like, it opens up a whole can of worms, if and that's the problem. Like, that should have been a penalty, in my opinion, because the rule was broken. But alas, we move on. Mzuma365, if there was no rain, do you think Lando would have won? Yes, I genuinely think he had Lewis Hamilton at bay, and Lando said in his interview himself that no doubt he would have won that race had it not rained, and it was clear to see. Lewis caught him very quickly. But it's a bit longer into the stint than when we saw Lewis making his other moves. So his tyres have worn off a little bit. Obviously, Lando is was really quick as well. So had enough speed in that last sector to bridge a big enough gap in order to not be under threat into turn 2. So, yeah, I mean, it was only 6-7 laps to go, and Lando seemed to be very much in the pound seats, even when it started being just a little bit of rain and slippery. Of course, Lando did make a couple of mistakes, especially when the camera angle, you saw Hamilton and you were like, where's Lando gone? And then you just see him appear as he has gone so wide at a corner. But at other times, he was pulling like 2.5 seconds on Lewis and genuinely looked decent in those conditions. But then obviously it all went to pot after that. But in my opinion, I think Lando, with the characteristics of the Sochi track, had it in the locker.
I am going to go the other way.
Wow.
And say that I think that potentially Hamilton might have just passed him a lap or two before the end. You don't think so?
No, I mean, 0%.
As much as I admire the incredible job that Lando did up until that point, obviously with some of the spots of rain, Lando had a few little errors. Going wide meant Hamilton could massively close the gap, but I don't know. I have a feeling that Lewis would have. I mean, it's all speculation.
It's all speculation.
We'll never know. Okay, cool. Good chat.
I'm joking.
No, that's right. What about you, Tommy? What do you think?
I am almost 100% sure that Lando would have won. And there's a key thing I think that I've not really heard too many people mention, and that is that Max Verstappen was 7th and Lewis Hamilton was 2nd in a world championship fight. There's absolutely no way, in my opinion, that a driver as experienced as Hamilton is making a risky move on Lando Norris, who's got everything. Like we saw in the race with Lando's decision, he's happy to finish last or first. And he would have done that even if it stayed dry. I wouldn't be surprised if, Lando was making his car as wide as possible. And in my opinion, we saw not only Hamilton struggle to get past Ricciardo earlier in the race, and that makes me think that Hamilton would have had to do something. It wouldn't have been easy, and the fact that it wouldn't have been easy to me just confirms that there's no way Hamilton's going to risk that, because Verstappen down in 7th, it's actually quite ironic, which we'll go into later, is that Hamilton had a bigger points cap on Verstappen at that moment than he ended up doing winning the race.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I cannot see a driver as experienced as Lewis Hamilton making a move on Lando when it has nothing to lose, and Hamilton's already got a comfortable gap on Verstappen. That's why I personally think that he would have been fine.
Lovely.
But you never know.
You never know. May have locked up, may have snatched a
break,
whatever.
Yeah, under the pressure. Yeah, you never know.
But no. Tommy Wash, you're on the mic. Your 3-word recipe.
Well, I've got the mic. Mine is Mercedes' strange weekend, which I guess you could probably argue is the same for probably every single team because it was a bonkers race. But Mercedes have 100% record in Sochi, and I don't think anyone could have predicted that they would have won it in that way. I mean, both drivers, will go into the Bottas thing later, but both drivers had really odd and unusual weekends. Hamilton hit the pit wall, spun on his qualifying lap. There was talk of how embarrassed he was about the situation and how, he was really disappointed with his qualifying. And then, he messed up the start and got caught in a DRS train. And there's me thinking, Hamilton's bottled this easy win here. I can't believe it. And then
hold on. Let's go back to the start very quickly because I feel like the comments are going to be flying in from Hamilton lovers. He didn't bottle the start, in my opinion. Obviously,
did I say bottle the start?
Yeah, pretty much. You said,
I said he's bottled an easy win because I thought, he just gets a slipstream at the start and then he can make the race happen. And I thought, he's blown his chance of winning here.
I think he was unlucky.
Back to like 7th or something.
He was unlucky.
It's the nature of the track. Like, it wasn't like he stalled on the grid.
Yeah.
He just got sandwiched out. But when he's down in 7th, was it 7th? Yeah, I think he got past Alonso. I'm like, Liz, this is your race to win. Verstappen's last. What are you doing? And then I think it's the most Lewis Hamilton thing in the world that he ends up getting his 100th win anyway. Wins the race by a minute. I mean, you can just never count him out. That's Hamilton in a nutshell, isn't it? That you start to doubt him and he's like, okay, I'm going to win the race by a minute now. Bye. It's just, his whole weekend was like this. It was an absolute roller coaster of like, oh, Hamilton's like, under pressure from Verstappen, because Verstappen caught him at one point and you were like, Verstappen could beat Hamilton in this race. Yeah. The race was just changing all over the place. And for me, it's just absolutely insane. And we haven't really mentioned it, and there wasn't many questions on it because it's not really a question and it shouldn't even be argued. But 100 race wins is just absolutely insane and just an incredible achievement that you just can't say anything negative about because it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's an incredible achievement. Something that I don't think any of us thought we'd see after Schumacher retired on 91, but here we are, Hamilton on 100, and he's just taken every record pretty much, apart from the one that really counts, which might happen this year.
Someone's just mentioned it actually in the comments. Alice says, "Insert the I am inevitable" meme, which I saw in IBR.
Literally, I was about to say it,
and I remember thinking like that sums up that Hamilton race perfectly. That so much went wrong for him the whole weekend, and he wins the race by a minute. It's incredible.
He is inevitable, and you see, I hate to say Twitter, but you see on Twitter people, saying how Hamilton's so lucky, blah 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 blah. But how is he? How is he lucky? I was going to say, how is he lucky all the time?
He's got lucky.
Yeah. Lucky. Fastest car. Who cares? All this stuff that just tries to bring down his achievements when you can't really say that. Like the amount of people, which I found hilarious, that actually took my George Russell out qualifying Hamilton twice this season, and that's not 2022 yet, seriously hurt my soul. Like the fact that people cannot see that sort of stuff, but that's the thing that happens. People take things so literally, and they're like, "Whoa, what? You're disrespecting Hamilton because you said George just out qualified him twice." It's like,
I thought we were British bias.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be fair, George is also British.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the Mercedes strange weekend. Yes, very strange, but Hamilton is inevitable, and we always expect him to come through. Hence, sort of going back to my previous point about when someone takes it to him and actually beats, hello Frank, when someone actually beats Lewis, it's exciting because he has got 100 race wins, which is almost 10% of all F1 official races of all time, which I saw from Niran. So good stat from you there, Niran. I think it's about 9.6% for people that are actually kicking off about that. But yeah,
that's still mad, isn't it?
Yeah, that's actually crazy. I think I agree with you, Matt. We all have been watching F1 for a long time, 10, 20 years, or maybe longer for Tommy, no offense. But
100.
Yeah, he's been there since day one as Tommy. But yeah, 100 wins seemed like impossible almost. And yes, Hamilton has been fortunate with the decisions that he's made, but he's made those decisions, like we say it all the time, but like joining Mercedes, there was no guarantee that he was going to get the success that he did, but it's down to surrounding himself with other hardworking people and using the skills that he has as a driver to help shape and mold the team. And it's not just a case of he rocks up to work every day and all the people around him have like built him this perfect car. Like he also has so much input into that car, into that team, and from making strategy calls to just delivering on the day. There's a reason why he has got those 100 wins. Whether it will get another driver come along and beat that down the line, I don't know. There's obviously some immense talent that's currently on the grid, and probably even more that's coming up through junior series at the moment. So yeah, an insane weekend, and like you say, almost didn't seem like it was going to happen at one point because Mercedes had a proper shocker, especially in quali, with Hamilton making this rare mistake of hitting his front wing into the pit lane. I know when we did the watch along, I commented and said, that is not ideal, which ended up as being one of the top comments. Someone saying like, "Oh, Katie's observation, absolutely perfect."
It is. It's like, well, look, you had a go at lead commentary in the watch along as well, and it was. Honestly, I didn't even need to see the feed. The amount of description that came
is
out
a
of
lie.
Your mouth was
I got Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda confused. It was great.
It was a good 10 seconds.
Yeah. But, that mistake then ruined Bottas's qualifying because they had to push Hamilton's car off of the pit place and then bring Bottas in. So it was generally a bit of a messy weekend for them. But as you say, they're inevitable. They'll just win all the time.
They're inevitable. Please tune in though, because F1 is still crazy and he's not inevitable all the time at the moment. But it will. I'm sure it will return. At Ragaf_Vish, this is a good question. In hindsight, would this have been a good place for Hamilton to take a new engine? maybe.
You think?
Yeah, especially if you see Verstappen taking one. Maybe that is the time. And then you think, well, Mercedes are quicker than Red Bull round here, apart from when Verstappen is overtaking Bottas, which we will talk about, I'm sure. It's an interesting point, actually. I haven't really thought about it until I literally just read the question, but I don't see why sure, Hamilton and Verstappen coming from the back from an entertainment perspective, yes. But then I guess from the other side, they just probably want just an easy win, 25 points in the bag, worry about the engine a bit later on. So I can see arguments for both sides, but I guess doing that would just then give a victory to a random team. I don't know. It's a difficult one. You don't know how Lewis would have performed from the back, but if Bottas is anything to go by, it probably wasn't actually that great of a track to take an engine.
Yeah, for me, it makes sense to have just left it as it is. They use Bottas as a tactical pawn, shall we say, in their game of chess, and gave him that engine penalty, which, like you said, we will talk about in a minute. But yeah, I think it made sense not to give Hamilton a new engine for this race. It was obvious that Lando and Carlos, I thought Carlos would fall back much more than he did during that race, because Ferrari have seemed to have real struggles with their tyres and stuff, making them last this year. But to me, it makes sense to just get the points in the bag, especially as it seemed obvious that Verstappen would be doing the same thing. And I don't think anybody expected Verstappen to finish P2. I don't think Verstappen even expected to finish P2. So that was quite, I think, like the right decision from Mercedes. It's better for them to take an engine penalty, in my opinion, at a race where the Red Bull's going to be way more dominant, like Mexico, if we go there, or Brazil or something like that. Rather than also if we go
those we're not going
the whole end of the calendar is like if we go there.
If we go. So I think better to get a decent haul of points and save an engine penalty for another weekend.
I was reading into this. I personally don't think Hamilton's taking an engine penalty this year. The only quotes I could find was Helmut Marko saying Hamilton will probably have to take an engine penalty, and then Toto going, yes, it is quite difficult to do 3 engines in a year, but Hamilton, like the Mercedes is so reliable.
Well, there we go then. They'll be taking an engine penalty next race. Thanks so much to...
everyone jumps on the jinxes now, don't they? But seriously, I mean...
everything that comes out your mouth. Sorry,
Hamilton... I can't even say this now because everyone will be like, you said in the podcast he's never had a mechanical failure. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't had a mechanical failure since 2018. I just, personally, I just don't, he might do at the end of the season, but personally, I think they're going to wait for as long as possible, because if the engine's fine, what's the point just starting at the back for no reason when you can make the engine last, which we've seen what Mercedes can do. Like yes, I can totally understand Honda doing it because, they've had reliability engines in the past, and obviously Max's engine got obliterated in Silverstone. Same with Perez, going to have to take one because his got done in. But Verstappen, Bottas and Perez have, had crashes and had damage, whereas Hamilton hasn't. So personally, I personally don't feel like it's a foregone conclusion that Hamilton's taking an engine penalty, basically.
Okay. All right. Well, every Hamilton fan can now come back to this podcast to blame you when it happens at the next race.
Yeah.
Your powers are unmatched, Tommy. Literally. In qualifying, what did you do? You tweeted saying, oh, wow, everybody on the drives don't seem to be improving. Pole is safe. Next thing you know, Sainz is purple.
It was genuinely about 3 or 4 seconds that Sainz went purple after that tweet. Man.
And apparently everybody really enjoyed the Sainz has got temperature, Katie. Everyone, apparently that caused some goosebumps. So you're welcome.
That was a great reaction, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much. Cheers, appreciate it. Thanks to the founder. I'm glad okay, so
our jobs are safe for now.
People think that Tommy could actually fire us as well, which is amazing.
I love it.
We'll go with that. Just like I have to say the founder every single time. We bow down. We bow every time we see you in person as well. Anyway, moving on. Albert Sarakutu. Was the Bottas surprise strategy a huge mistake by Mercedes? So that was taking the penalty in order for Bottas to start lower down the grid, which in my head makes absolutely no sense that Mercedes would have done that for strategy reasons, as opposed to we need to take just get another part for Bottas to help him in the future of this season. I don't think they did that tactically. I can't see it. Why would they do that? It makes no sense because Bottas would just be coming through the field and so would Verstappen, and then Verstappen just passes Bottas anyway. Mercedes know that Bottas literally leaves the door open at every opportunity possible. Bottas, if anything, is a help because he's just giving Verstappen slipstream for a little bit, and then up the inside he goes, cheers, on your merry way. So for me, I can't see that being a tactical move from Mercedes personally.
Yeah, there's talk that they kind of hinted that that's what they wanted to do, and it was a way of essentially like getting a new engine whilst hindering Verstappen. It kind of shows that if it was that, the desperate side that it's kind of uncharted territory for Mercedes. Rewind my voice.
Nowhere. I'm sorry, audio listeners.
Yeah, sorry, audio listeners. We've never seen Mercedes in a position where they're the ones hunting rather than, being the ones that are clear. It's something we've seen from Ferrari and Red Bull in the past. The first thing that came into my mind was the year where Ferrari broke Massa's engine on purpose so they could get Alonso to start on the right side of the grid, on the clean side of the grid in 2012. And yeah, it was such a weird situation where it's like, why are they putting Bottas back? Because surely he's just going to pass him within about 5 laps. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, Mercedes, in the statement they put out, they said the team have taken the tactical opportunity to add another power unit to VB's pool for the remainder of the season. And if it was tactical and they thought they'd put him at the back to hold up Verstappen, like you say, Valtteri Bottas, he's not really got the best track record of being the world's best defender. Let's just say he's no Fernando Alonso in Hungary or whatever. So, yeah, I can kind of see what they were trying to do. I mean, at this point, I think it's very much gloves are off between Mercedes and Red Bull, and they'll do whatever they can to try and get these points over one another. But I found it really funny that Valtteri almost just left the door open for Max. I think, like I said, his track record's not great for defending, but that really was like 0% effort put in.
Yeah, exactly. The way that he defended makes me think that how I read tactical as well is tactical that they're adding a pull rather than tactical to defend from Max. Because if Bottas's only job for that race was to stop Max, he's absolutely going to the inside there and doing something. But
they got really lucky, I think, Mercedes, because if they hadn't have had that rain at the end, Bottas was finishing 14th, was it? Was Bottas 14th?
Yes, I'm pretty sure every time I checked the leaderboard, he was 14th doing nothing.
So he's about 14th, and you've got to think that yes, they've got a new engine in, but they're essentially sacrificing Bottas getting any points at arguably his best track.
Yeah,
and not taking any points off Verstappen. Because if it had finished and they'd have kept him 7th, you think, well, knock Verstappen down a place further. And they were actually quite lucky in the end that Bottas made a worldy call to, whether it was Mercedes or him, put the new tyres on. And then, he managed to get back in it, and he's got this new engine in the pool, as he reminded us on his Instagram, posting that picture of Valtteri with all his engines.
It's big brain strats, isn't it, from Bottas, really? Deep down. He just wanted to finish P5, and he's going to win every single race from here on in.
Yep.
Next question. Team WTF1 member Lando. Is that literally their name?
Yeah, Lando's joined Team WTF1.
Lando's joined Team WTF1.
He
was on Discord. That's the first thing he wanted to do after the race was jump on our Discord and ask a question.
Did Bottas put any effort at all in preventing Max from passing? No, we've covered that. Moving on. My 3-word race review is...
Sorry, can we just mention DC during Channel 4 coverage, who... I don't know if anyone's watched the Channel 4 coverage, but when it was possibly the funniest reaction I've seen, because Webber and David Coulthard both went, oh, and then Webber goes, I can't believe what I've just witnessed. And then DC goes, is Bottas going to Alpha Tauri next year or Alfa Romeo? Just saying, it's Bottas. It's Bottas being Bottas. I don't think it's a case of, him not caring anymore or anything like that. He's never been great at defending. Maybe a little bit of him not caring.
I think a little bit. It's a little bit like, sorry, I'll let him by. What a shame. If only you kept me for next year.
Well, he won't be keeping his brand new swanky car in this race.
No, that's going to be keyed by Toto Wolff in the car park.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Because there's all sorts of rumors flying around, which probably have been silenced now, that when he dropped back and a lot of people were like, oh, is he going to, take Verstappen out at turn 1? That it was like, I saw some ridiculous things like, oh, it's part of Bottas's contract that Toto finding him a new seat meant that he's got to do everything to help Lewis win the title. And I was thinking like, he's not really doing that, is he?
No, he don't care. He does not care in the slightest. Bless him. Moving on to Max Verstappen and my 3-word race review, which is crucial Max podium. It is absolutely unreal that he's finished P2. I know we have mentioned it, but to get 18 points in that situation where at one point he was getting passed by Alonso and down to P7, Hamilton, would have probably finished P2, 18 points. 7th is 6. So that's, I guess, a 9-point swing. But then Hamilton could have won if Katie's scenario happened. So, yeah, for me, I just can't believe he's managed to limit the damage to 7 points when he started at the back of the grid and Hamilton had an amazing chance of winning by a country mile, which I guess he did in the end. But you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think it's massive for the championship because Max could have easily scored a very like 4-6 points, whatever, and Hamilton extending that by 20 odd points would have been enormous. But instead, they're separated by 2 now? Is Hamilton taking the lead by 2 points? Is that right?
Yeah, 2 points.
Nodding. Perfect. So, yeah, big moves for Max in the championship.
Yeah, it's that race, and especially that ending, had the potential to throw the championship wide open, really. If you think how, like, the way it was changing between Hamilton and Verstappen, all race really as well, the championship is just changing all the time. And like you say, Verstappen, I think there was even a bit in the end in the pen where Hamilton was talking to the media and then went, oh, Verstappen must have had a really good race to finish P2. Almost like, how has he done that? It almost kind of...
What shortcut did he find?
Yeah, it was almost...
Oh, don't talk about shortcuts. Alonso's had his ears prick up.
Oh, yeah. It's almost like you could see the realization in his head of like, I got this win, and then, oh, how has Max finished second? That's really annoying. Yeah, it was, like say, crucial that he got there, because it could have easily been, and we don't know that we think that Hamilton might not have passed Lando, but if he did, it would have been a case of Lewis winning the race, Max finishing 7th, and that's a huge point swing. So damage limitation is definitely what was done there, and you could tell that Max was buzzing. Although despite all the arguments on Twitter, we can at least enjoy. Yeah, we can at least enjoy one thing, that both Lewis Hamilton fans and Max Verstappen fans can be happy after that race.
Harmony in the world. And then Lando Norris fans are like, excuse me. But yeah, no, it was a phenomenal drive from Max to start from 20th and finish in second. Yes, there was, it wasn't a traditional race. There was a lot of chaos in the end, but it's at those moments that sometimes are the most important to sort of make the right decisions in the heat of the moment, like pitting for those intermediates. Like we said, he was in P7 on lap 47 when the rain started to fall. So he was one of the earlier guys. I know, obviously, in terms of pitting, it depends where you are on the track. And I mean, like going back into the Lando Hamilton thing, obviously they had such a big gap that to them, it might have made sense to, like, they probably didn't think that they were going to fall quite as back as they were and the conditions were going to get as bad as they were. But yeah, a brilliant race from Max. And yeah, once again, like a drive that I feel has been overshadowed by everything else that happened. But yeah, one of the drives of the season, I think, for Max.
Defo, RK_Thom says, has Max's drive been quietly overshadowed? 20 to second, insanely good drive. I'm like, no, I don't think it has been overshadowed. And to be honest, yes, he had a good recovery drive, but sat in 7th before the rain came in. So, it wasn't like he was sitting P2 after a miraculous comeback. So, yeah, it was brilliant and amazing, the result of P2, but I don't think it's going to go down in history as, wow, 20 to second, overtook all of them. But then again, I say that changeable conditions came in and then he started making moves. Was it on Ricciardo and Sainz? I think it was moving forward. So it was really good. Don't get me wrong.
I'm really desperate to see, and you're going to go, of course you are, you fanboy. But I'm would very much like to see Max's on board from him pitting for the Inters and then just that on board for essentially the rest of the race. Because like you say, we didn't really see that because, well, there was so much action.
I can just imagine you just whacking up on the big screen, tucking up in bed, getting your popcorn.
Putting my cape on.
Oh, man, he's so good in the wet.
There's actually a moment in that race where when him and Leclerc got up behind Hamilton, I was like, this could be a Verstappen Leclerc 1-2 at this point. If the people that started on the mediums pit soon. But then the race ended up changing again. But there was one point where it looked like, wow, Max and Charles just breezed through the field. And when a lot of people were caught in DRS trains, I know he had a lot of a big car advantage, but Max was putting in moves. And also almost forgotten that I've literally just remembered is him almost losing his front wing in that Charles Leclerc moment.
Oh my God,
completely forgotten about until just then. But that's another thing that this championship is just moments like that. It can flip.
And you'll enjoy this, Tommy, because I don't know if you've watched IBR. I know you're a big avid viewer.
I did watch IBR.
You would have then noticed me saying that I feel like that's a change in temperament. There you go.
Yeah. You need to do a
for Max there, because I think a younger Max is sticking a nose in and there's a massive crash. But he's got out of that early enough, knowing that gap's going to close.
It's probably because he got enough abuse from blimmin' Monza. People going, he just is so reckless and blah, blah, blah. And he thought, maybe. Do you think that he's maybe gone,
I think
worth risking this?
The one driver on the grid that is not going to be phased by what people say is Max Verstappen. I think that's more just the maturity of being in a championship fight. And the fact that he did that and didn't nip a wing, and saw it coming before it happened, I think is kind of big moves, I think, for Max moving forward, if he has that sort of mentality. In my opinion. So I think that was impressive because it was close, don't get me wrong, but he saw it really close very quickly. So yeah. Moving on to Elmar Bile. From a World Drivers' Championship perspective, is the Verstappen second place more of a win than the Hamilton's first place? Yes. Can we just say yes to that? I think we've almost touched upon that already. Let's touch upon something else which isn't on the sheet, which is Fernando Alonso straight lining turn 2 on lap 1, because I don't think we've actually got that written down, but we need to talk about it because it's I was actually angry. It angered me mainly because maybe because it goes back to my league racing days where corner cutting, and you're like, oh yeah, screw you, you're only quick because you're corner cutting. When I saw that, I was like, Fernando, you are a crafty man.
Cheeky
I
thing.
love it.
I think it was. I don't think it was actually his act. I think it was the fact that the stewards hadn't seen that happening. So it was like, yes.
You mentioned this in IBR, and I've not seen it yet. But the commentators alluded to on the formation lap. He practiced it.
Yeah, he did it. He then missed.
And then it was it was so obvious. And I was watching it with my wife, Katie, and she was like, right, this is where Alonso cuts the corner. And sure enough, straight over. And it's so blatant. But I mean, it's just peak Fernando Alonso.
How is that not seen as corner cutting? I don't because
it's the rules. And it's almost like him mocking the rules. It's like him doing that to the FIA, basically. He's just gone, here are the rules. It's rather than him saying, I think it's ridiculous, you can do this, he's like, I'm going to show you how ridiculous it is. I'm just going to.
And it wasn't even noted, was it? Wasn't even investigated, nothing. No. They were like,
I feel like Alonso has made this point a few times in his career that on the first lap, he said, well, why would I risk my front wing going around a corner when I can just cut it? Because he's more of an old school, he's grown up in Formula 1 where it wasn't like this. And he's almost going, fine, we'll do this.
We'll play that game.
Yeah.
Well, in Austria,
I absolutely love it. It's so funny.
In Austria with Ricciardo took a wider line going around turn 1, I think it was. And Alonso on team radio was like, Ricciardo, he's, going off and doing this. And he got really angry because he thought that Ricciardo did it on purpose, where he essentially didn't stay on the track. He went just away from the track to, I don't know if he gained positions, but basically, to keep out of any mayhem. And nothing was done about it. Like Alonso was super angry on team radio, being like, tell it to the stewards, I need to investigate this, get him a penalty. Nothing happened. So Alonso's now just gone, don't care, I'm going to do it. And like you say, show you how stupid it is. But 10 out of 10 from Fernando for doing that.
Well, we're not going back anyway, are we?
Third.
Yeah.
No,
we're
exactly.
not going back there. So
one more.
Yeah. Oh, we got one more year. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I highly doubt those bollards will be in that place come next year. But I mean, the kahunas on that, because this and the spatial awareness needed for Fernando Alonso to fly through there.
Mess it up last year.
Yeah. So he's clearly looked at the exact angle he needed to go in at, and then he's just gone straight, which is. I mean, the fact I actually thought he was going to come out in the lead at one point. He literally was like third coming out. It was insane. But, well done, Fernando. I was more angry at the stewards for not seeing that one. But interesting stuff. Okay, let's go on to another question from Neely_7. Why did Perez wait 2 laps after Verstappen got his inters to get them? I get that the same lap wasn't an option because Verstappen was too close, but the lap after was still good. Red Bull threw important points away here with Perez. I don't have an answer.
Exactly the same as Lando.
Yeah, just risking it.
I've heard the team radio. Do you want to pit for inters? No. And then they left him out.
And that's just what happens. So I guess the learnings are the team have to be a bit more assertive when they can see exactly what's coming down on the track.
Team more assertive. So something that was mentioned in the race podcast that I totally agree with was that when it's a wet track and it's drying, you almost want that driver input because they're the ones feeling the conditions. But when it's a dry track becoming wet, then you almost need to rely on the team because they're the ones with all the weather data and know exactly what's happening. So hopefully they learn from it, because who knows? I mean, we've got Turkey next, and if I don't know the weather,
ice rink
could be an ice rink again. So we shall see.
I really hope not. As much as Turkey was a crazy race last year, I can't be dealing with even crazy race.
I was just thinking about something now.
Consistency.
I know Abu Dhabi, based on how Sochi and Paul Ricard could potentially be good, and they've changed the circuit and stuff. This season, if this was an Interlagos finale, it's got 2008 rain at the end written all over it for Verstappen and Hamilton. I'm kind of now a little bit gutted that the finale isn't, because you just know it would rain in the last 5 laps the way the season's going.
100%.
This seems inevitable that would happen.
The finale belongs at Brazil. We all believe that. I think, don't we? Yeah, it's fair to say.
Adelaide.
Or Adelaide, yeah. Or maybe not for me.
Oh, Jacob, throwback.
Yeah, thanks so much. Anyway, moving on to Carlos Sainz, who did lead the race at the start, which feels like an absolute eternity ago, and didn't really feel like he actually led the race at all. But at Paddles says, why did Ferrari pit Sainz so early? Were they covering Stroll and Russell, or did they believe Norris would pit too? Felt like they all pitted a bit early. Well, Katie alluded to it. The tyres on the Ferrari were absolutely shocking. And the fact that he was genuinely slower than George Russell in P3 before he pit just showed that he had to pit. There was no sort of conversation there, because as soon as Norris got through, I think by the time Sainz came into the pits, maybe the lap after, Norris was 3.5 seconds clear, 3 seconds clear, something around that. So there was no more life in those medium tyres for Sainz. So he was forced into that rather terrible strategy. And I'm sure once that happened, Ferrari knew that they were going to be stuck in this massive train, because that's the thing. That's the reason why Lando did a brilliant job as well, extending those mediums so long into that race, because if he'd pitted, he would have had exactly the same strategy as Carlos, been stuck in the train and wouldn't have had a chance to win the race. So yeah, it just wasn't good enough for Ferrari and their tyre management, really.
Yeah, we've seen it a few times, haven't we? Ferrari having poor tyre management. They don't seem to be able to make the tyres last as long as the other midfield guys, because I feel like Sainz did everything he could with that. But it was just a case of, like you say, Ferrari not having the tyre management. It's something they need to clearly work on, because they, like you say, they just could not stay out any longer. If you're going slower than Russell in the Williams, you're just going to lose far too much time.
Something's up if you're going that slow. But yeah, no, it was the right decisions for them. And to be honest, at the end, what I found interesting at the end of the race, speaking to Charles Leclerc, well, I didn't speak to him obviously, but like listening to an interview with Charles Leclerc, he was saying that when they made the decisions of going to Inters, Carlos had already come into the pits, and he said that they couldn't pit at the same time, which I thought was quite an interesting thing. So he went round again. So I don't know why Ferrari weren't keen on doing a double stack or something. But
wait till Charles learn you can double stack.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, why did they not pit? But then he was a bit.
I wonder if I heard that as well. I wonder if it's his way of saying we split the strategy and one of us is going to look like a genius and, could potentially get an amazing result and the other get a terrible result. And we just have to deal with it that way. I wonder if that's
which cards you get dealt. Yeah.
Sainz was really good in that race. I'm glad Sainz ended up on the podium, because I felt really sorry for him when he'd driven a brilliant race, like you say, the Ferrari tires onto it, and they came on the radio and were like, "We're aiming for 5th," and you must have been like, "I got into the lead at the start.
Yeah.
I've had an absolute unbelievable qualifying lap. I've got into the lead at the start, drove brilliantly, and now you're telling me 5th is the best result I can get here? Are you joking?" So yeah.
I'm also happy for Carlos that he actually got to experience the podium, because we've had it a few times now where he's been promoted up to 3rd because of post-race disqualifications and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, and penalties. So well done, Carlos, for actually getting on the podium and getting to experience it.
Amazing stuff. Team WTF1 member Connor comes in with, who is responsible for the constant subpar TV direction? This is happening way too much. The positions charts were changing so much, but all we saw was Hamilton going round the track for the last 3 laps. That was disgraceful. I will full on say I was absolutely fuming at Lando Norris literally going around when there's rivers on the track on dry tyres, and Hamilton, let's just watch him toodle around on his intermediates. What is going on? I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. It wasn't good enough. And Russia don't take it in-house as far as I'm aware. This was just an F1 TV direction vibe. And it wasn't a vibe. I didn't enjoy it, because the amount of times, as Connor says, and I think I mentioned it in IBR as well, we saw position changes and they weren't even using the small box. Where's the small box? I'll take the small box. It's like watching on a really terrible grey television, but I'll take it over nothing. And there just wasn't anything. And I get it's a crazy race, but all you have to monitor are the gaps. And if it's like 4/10, let's whack a little mini box up, shall we? See what's going on. Unless there were literal technical difficulties, which I don't think there were, then it's unforgivable, in my opinion. We missed a lot of action out there, and maybe they're trying to make us sign up to F1 TV, where you can get all the camera on boards. But yeah, it wasn't good enough. Especially, look, the change of the lead. They were watching someone else. Lando was very clearly on the straight behind Sainz. They have driver trackers. They have everything. And it wasn't until he was through that they changed it. Not good enough.
It's almost as if F1 have gone, this race is normally quite boring. We'll just send like Gary down.
Just got the interns.
Just put them on it. And it was, I wasn't sure at the start if they were actually having any technical issues, because even for the pit stops, like the pit stop timer things of how long they weren't appearing. So I'm not sure if they did actually have technical difficulties. But yeah, the TV direction, I appreciate that there was a lot going on, especially for Sochi, but just in general, like there was so much happening. But yeah, like you say, not to have the tiny little boxes or things like that. I'm wondering if Formula One needs to sort of maybe change their approach of how they show some of the broadcasts, because it's only taken until like the last few years for the little box to pop up, whereas in places like MotoGP, that had been around for quite a long time. But then, like you say, maybe it's all just a ploy for everyone to get F1 TV so you can see every single camera angle you ever need. But
this podcast is not sponsored by F1 TV. I hasten to add.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. I wonder if the normal guy like you say, had a day off, and the only person they could get was the Monaco TV director, and they were just like, God, and this was his chance to redeem himself. I feel like there were some moments where I was like, I feel a little bit sorry for them because there's so much action going on, and especially towards the start of the race, they'd show like Verstappen behind Bottas or something, and then because it looked like Verstappen was going to go for a move, and with Sochi as well, a lot of the overtaking was done in the middle of the track quite unexpectedly, and I was like, okay, fair enough. And then it'd cut, and it's like, oh, actually they've missed, the lead. That's really annoying. And then as they were showing the lead, that's when Verstappen got past, and it was like there was a few moments like that where you're like, actually that's just really unlucky. But then there were so many moments where you're like, no, this is actually just really bad. And it seemed to just like build and build and build, where there were so many moments. And like you say, you see these things from the F1 TV pit lane channel, and you just think like, this is the perfect situation for them to basically go double screen. They do this in IndyCar, double screen, Lando, Hamilton together, gap in the middle. Let's watch as as the gap's coming down so you can see it. But they don't do that. And then it's a shame, because it was very frustrating. And however much a race is good, when you don't see it live, and it takes me back to Zandvoort. Wasn't the greatest race in the world, but the amount of times we saw cars come past going side by side into turn 2, thinking you can see. Sorry, turn 1. I'm thinking I've still got turn 2. Sochi in my head.
There's a kink in the middle of the Zandvoort straight.
Thinking, come on, like we can see this.
That's exactly what Tommy was like. He just sat there going, come on.
Yeah, come on.
Come on.
Where is it?
Come on. Give me my action.
Like you say, I think you said this in IBR. How hard is it to look at a gap and go, press the
button? We
button?
should change to that. Yeah, exactly. And as I say, I would have been like, okay, fair enough. If we're seeing another move and then we miss something else, then fine. But the problem was we were watching something a second and a half gap. And that's the problem for me.
This is just like a thought bubble. But I wonder if a lot of the TV direction is done by like broadcasters, and what they really need is like a broadcaster, but also someone with like an F1 brain, because the fans know to look at that, but maybe a broadcaster that can do that job. Do you know what I mean?
Let me jump in here because I've been lucky enough to do some F1 TV commentary, so I've actually seen the compound, and they do a bit about it as well and show it. There is a lot going on. I've put headphones on, and they're like, right, I've got this feed, and then I think the problem is it goes through so many channels, and it's like someone gets approves it, and then it goes to someone else, and then eventually it gets to it's almost like an auction. They're like, well, I've got Stroll calling Ocon an absolute blah blah blah.
But then in a race like that, blah, blah, blah. In a race like that, it's just action.
So I can imagine
you can't have that approval process.
Exactly. Well, I can't, say for certain that's exactly how they do it for, the start of the race and whatnot. But I just know that, it is madness. But still, we've seen quality then take a step back and it not be that great, especially in such a great race, just takes the shine off it a tiny bit, in my opinion. Anyway, moving on. Positivity. What a lovely Russian Grand Prix. Tommy, press the button.
And now it's time for ABCDF1.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. Remember, you can vote too for ABCDF1. Visit WTF1.com after the race and you can vote too. Right.
But before we get cancelled, can I just... Disclaimer. I don't know if you guys agree, but I think this is arguably one of the most difficult ABCDF1s we will ever do
in history,
because essentially, like a race turning on something like chance of rain with 5 laps to go and the entire order flipping on its head.
Yeah,
how much do you account for race and result? And I feel like whatever you say, everyone's just going to get annoyed. So let's do this.
Yeah, let's try and not do an hour-long ABCDF1 because I feel like we're going to be like, well, I gave him a D because blah, blah, blah. Anyway, okay, here we go then. Lewis Hamilton. I am going to give him an A.
I've gone for A as well because I don't think it was
Ooh.
perfect, but it was pretty darn good.
Katie?
Yeah, I've also gone for an A. Let's stop it there.
Right,
Stop
thank you so much for tuning into ABC F1. Hamilton gets an A, and the fans
Hamilton
gave
wins
him
by a
an
minute. You can give him an A.
A as well.
Yeah.
It's not an A star.
No, it's not.
Too many
Right,
mistakes over the weekend.
Drop down to
If
7.
anything, it's a credit to Lewis Hamilton that he can win by a minute and it's still only an A.
Put your
You go.
finger away, sir. Okay, next up, Valtteri Bottas. I am going to give him a C.
Yeah, I'm for the same.
Okay,
Even his
Yeah.
race was
together
screwed himself.
disagree.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that he got given the penalty. Like, obviously, it's the same thing of how would he have performed had he actually started where he qualified. But it was a bit disappointing. He did luck into the rain and being able to pit for Inters early and taking that.
That's one of the
chance.
worst dry performances we've ever seen, I think, to be honest. I mean, the fact that he was stuck in 14th doing absolutely nothing in a Mercedes where we've physically seen Verstappen go up to 7th, etc.
I mean, we saw literally from Valtteri the other weekend, like coming from the back to 3rd, like he can do it. So I don't know, maybe he's just in a strop because he got his grid drop, but we're not
Oh, and you didn't
ranking
know
on
it?
having a strop. Oh yeah. So yeah, I think
What's your
C's.
grade? A C.
C,
Okay,
yeah.
and a C from the fans as well. We're all in agreement. Max Verstappen. Oh, Lord.
I'm glad we're all on the same wavelength.
Oh,
Are we
I'm
all
wincing.
thinking A star, but not quite A star because he was 7th?
I'm thinking, wow, I'm thinking A.
I was thinking A. I really want to see his drive in the wet conditions.
No, A star.
Because
I remember. Well, I saw the clip of him going past. I think it was Ricciardo and Sainz, and he put himself in that position, made the ballsy call to go on to intermediates, finish P2 from the last on the grid. It has to be an A star. Thank you for coming to my map talk.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but he's getting an A from me.
Burn the cape.
Yeah.
The cape's
Katie?
off.
Oh, this is so difficult.
Don't cry. It's all right.
I know it's fun, literally.
It's so difficult.
20th to 2nd is an A star performance. Yes.
Okay.
He was helped by the weather, but anyway, sorry. I keep meaning to justify why I'm saying it.
No, I don't mean to cut across, Katie. I'm
it's
sorry.
fine. Otherwise, I will go on for like 3 hours.
It's fine. We don't need to explain ourselves to these people. Just accept the grade. The fans gave Verstappen an A star. So Tommy, R.I.P.
I'm such a hater.
Sergio Perez. Was it 10th? Did he finish?
9th.
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 Ninth?
Yeah.
Ninth?
Would have
He
been on
was
the podium, wouldn't he? I think.
I mean, it was such an opportunity once again with Verstappen starting at the back, Bottas 16th, Leclerc out as well. You know, he doesn't have many people really when he's in a Red Bull, but he's still qualified 8th. Is it 8th? I think it was 8th.
Qualified 8th, yeah, which is really poor, but he was going to finish 3rd if it wasn't fair.
He was going to finish 3rd, but then clearly lost a lot of confidence in the old slippery conditions because Alonso just went, bye, have a great time, and then went straight past him. So, and then obviously he then made the call as well to not come in, which you've got to grade against as well slightly.
I don't want ABC F1
Sorry.
4 hours. Also me.
It's because everyone thinks I hate Perez, which just isn't the case.
I think
C.
I think he's just getting a beef. Because I've got to grade him better than Bottas.
That's true. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. What did I give Bottas? C. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, but he finished P5.
This is why it's so
I hate it. Why did we decide to do this?
So literally the whole race just went like that.
Yeah.
At the end.
Some people made the right call, and then do you
and then you just know that you look at the results and you go, Bottas a C when he finished 5th and Perez a B when he finished 9th, but it makes sense in my head.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's such a difficult one. But
I think I'm going to stick with C for today. Katie, what did you say?
I don't know.
You can't just nod. half of up.
Can I meet you in the middle? I've actually got to make the deciding grade as well. Oh. I'll go with the C.
Thank you. Good. And the fans gave Perez a C as well. Lando Norris. This is going to be easy. A.
Yeah,
I can't give him an A star.
I can't give him an A star because the reason he's not getting an A star for me is
that extra lap.
I know this sounds really harsh, but that extra lap when you could get maybe a more mature driver will go, I still can finish second here.
Yeah.
Not kind of just throw everything out the way. That's why he's an A for me.
Understandable. That's the same for me. I can understand why he gambled, but to then finish 7th, it's just you can't give an A-star performance for a 7th, even though he got pole, even though he led for half the race. We're giving him an A.
99% of his weekend was absolutely flawless, but it's the last 5 laps. And unfortunately, that's where the points lie. And we say this, we can't give people A-stars for things like qualifying, like getting first pole position, because you don't get any points for that. It was
got a point for fastest lap as well. He had everything.
He was on it, but it unfortunately it's a one moment of
people are gonna hate
all of the chat like A star.
Yeah.
To be honest, I've just looked at the fan vote out of curiosity.
And what is it?
It's only 52% A star.
And what's
36% A. So there are a lot of people kind of.
I feel like there's a lot of pity A stars, though. I think there's a lot of pity A stars.
Yeah, I'd love to give him an A star, but personally, I don't think.
I just can't. It hurts. I want to. It doesn't matter. I'll give him an A star because you both have given him an A. There you go.
Oh, that's not
that makes me feel better. That makes me feel better.
Just because you're his friend, you're gonna WhatsApp me like, "Oh, look, I gave you an A star."
Oh yes, because he's definitely an avid watcher.
Tom and Katie hate you. Yeah, he had a question earlier.
Yeah,
just cut out all my umming and ahhing. Just have A star. And the fans gave him an A star, as you say. But yeah, I mean, my actual grade is an A, but my heart is an A star. Anyway, moving on. Daniel Ricciardo finished P4. Is it 4th? He had a decent race. A.
I've gone for B.
I've gone for an A.
Yeah. I'm giving Norris an A. But then he has beaten Norris, technically. A.
He pitted for Inters earlier. He made that call. Was the right one.
Yeah, he did show mom.
And he had a terrible pit stop that ruined a lot of his... Sorry, Danny.
Well done, Katie.
Katie's argued his corner. Lovely.
No.
Are you an A as well, Katie? Yeah?
Yeah, I'm an A. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And the fans gave Ricciardo an A. Charles Leclerc. He was having a lovely race right behind Max pretty much the entire time, balling, chilling. And then the rain kind of ruined his life, didn't it, a little bit?
Join the club.
Let's go with a B.
Yeah, B. Yeah.
I think a B
which is
fair.
mad when he finished 15th. But I mean, it was just a mad gamble at the end. But I think if he would have carried on, I mean, he drove a really good race at the start.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
So difficult because some of them were judging on the end result and some of them were not.
I know. It's impossible.
People are gonna hate us, but just remember, everybody, disclaimer, this is just for fun. Okay, are you going to go with the B as well, Katie, or what are you going to say?
I'll go with the B.
Okay, and the fans gave him a B, so hopefully the majority won't hate us. Carlos Sainz, A.
Yeah, I think
the characteristics of the Ferrari forced him into a bad strategy.
I'm almost at A star for Sainz.
Whoa.
Yeah, and we did qualify on the front row.
I literally can't fault anything he did in the entire race for me.
But then maybe he chewed his tyres up a bit quicker.
Yeah.
A bit too quickly.
Yeah.
Fighting Lando, which caused a bad strat. I don't know.
Is that not the characteristics of the car?
I don't know, but then Leclerc.
so difficult.
I said that, but then I thought Leclerc did all right and managed his. I know he was on hards, but still managed his race a lot lot so I don't know. Maybe it's just a medium.
See Leclerc for. Well, we did.
Speculation.
Screw it. He's getting an A-star.
Okay.
Me. It's not going to make a difference because you can go for A. But
have you gone for an A, Katie? Or?
I said originally A, so I'll stick with
I love me and you are just together on this, Katie.
I'm just
Tommy's already one above and one below.
I don't like it.
Oh no, it's not depressing. There are people. Everybody were having a lot of fun who's listening and watching. Please continue to listen to this ABCDF1. Katie is not actually sad. Moving on.
I just want to give them all a little gold star for trying. You tried your best.
None of them want your little pity stars, okay, Katie? Okay, Sebastian Vettel. What happened? What happened with Vettel? Him and Stroll nearly blew up, didn't they?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a bit of tension there. Let's go with where did he finish?
12th.
C.
Yeah.
Okay, Katie.
Yeah, it's a bit of a unforgettable race for Vettel.
An unforgettable, or you mean forget? That sounded like he had an amazing race. That was an unforgettable race.
forgettable race.
Yes, it was. Lance Stroll. Oh no, so the fans gave Vettel a C as well. Lance Stroll. He had the best team radio ever, saying that he was going to stay out and it was fine, and then he spun straight into the wall.
It's
D, because he spun in the wall.
I'm almost at E territory because it was, he's turned in on his teammate without even seeing. Then he spun and hit the wall, and then he's taken out Gasly all at the end. Like that's 3 very big mistakes at the end.
Okay.
So I think he's getting an E, which is he had a brilliant qualifying, but
no points for qualifying.
Terrible in the race. So
Katie,
he's getting an E.
What's your thoughts?
I think an E is the right decision. I think he was asked or told to pit for inters and then didn't, I think. I'm not 100% sure. And then, we had the team radio of them saying, is it okay to stay out? And Lance going, yes. And then crashing into the wall.
Literally the next corner.
Just as he answers yes, it's like, oh, and he's gone.
I would have loved to have had him and the combination of Brad, those two in those kind of conditions. They clearly absolutely despise each other. Like you can just tell. That's probably why they've swapped, because Brad's like, oh, Lance, press this button. You haven't pressed this button. And then Lance is like, oh, I have Brad. And it's amazing. I'm actually quite disappointed those two have stopped working together.
I missed that bit of it.
I think it might just be for the one race, but I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe they'll return for Turkey. Who knows?
But Lance also could have done way better had he not gone on an absolute
But he was right behind Sainz.
Yeah, I'm annoyed at that because I really thought that he could have done something this race, top 5 at least.
But he didn't. So the fans gave Stroll a D. Pierre Gasly.
Oh, what a weekend for him. It's rubbish.
Bit of an unknown
weekend
for Gasly.
Absolutely wrecked his team on the radio afterwards.
Really? What did he say?
He basically said, we need to sort this out. This is not the exact quote. It was something along the lines of, we need to sort this out. Every time it rains, we get it wrong. And I'm not going to lie, kind of agree with him.
It's true, yeah.
Imola, when they left him out on he was on the wrong tyres, wasn't he?
He was on wets, wasn't he?
It seems like it happens a lot. Obviously, Saturday, and yesterday. They just seem to get it wrong all the time. I mean, we'll go into this later, but they put softs on Yuki Tsunoda when it was raining. They just seem to, they really,
That's an absolute gamble, isn't it?
I don't understand. And this is not the first time they've done it. I can't tell if like Monza 2008 and Monza 2020 is still in their head where they just go, gamble, anything, let's just go for it. When they're in and just do absolutely anything just to somehow get this miracle result. But they've made an awful lot of strategy errors in the wet conditions recently. And I can't really blame Gasly for, he maybe shouldn't have said it publicly on the radio. But
what's the thing? I feel like if Yuki Tsunoda had said that, because Yuki's been quite critical at the start of the career, of his Formula One career, and he got like absolutely like loads of hate from the media and stuff for being so critical of his team. But Pierre does it, and it's like, oh, Pierre's just angry. Like it's a bit double standards.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's give Gasly a C then.
Yeah.
The fans gave him a C. I'm so close to sneezing. Sorry. And Yuki Tsunoda, E.
Awful.
Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous
not
performance.
Improved at all.
He is. It's sad to see because he is a nice guy, but not good enough.
I will admit he is so lucky, especially in Red Bull, to
stay.
AC.
Yeah, 100%. There's definitely a Honda thing there.
He needs to step up next year.
So the fans gave Gasly a C and Tsunoda a D, and we gave Gasly a C and Tsunoda an E. Is that right, Katie?
Yeah.
You agreed? Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Fernando Alonso, A.
A.
Lovely stuff in the wet
Almost
to
an
dry,
A-star
dry
for
to
the
wet conditions.
I need to see Fernando Alonso on the podium this year. Just throwing that out there.
Well, you predicted him winning the race, didn't you? You
I did.
absolute crazy man.
I love that. It always makes me laugh when you go for something different in a year where George Russell has got a podium. Ocon has won. Danny Rick has won. Vettel finished second. Like, come on! Like,
and the top comments like, Tommy,
what are you smoking?
What are you on?
Yeah, it's like still.
Love it.
Bonkers. It's a bonkers season.
And it was a bonkers race. And Fernando nearly won.
I really
it was a bonkers race.
And
it was a Hamilton Verstappen one.
Fernando was also given an A by the fans. Esteban Ocon, very, did not see much of him at all, did we really?
Terrible.
C for Ocon, and the fans gave him
D.
Oh, you said C, but Katie said C.
Oh, okay.
So, but Katie said C, so
did you say C?
Yeah.
Interesting.
If the founder wants me to say D, I'll change it. Don't want to lose my job.
Was he 14th?
No, it's true. I was just curious because.
All right, D. D for Ocon. I didn't realize he'd finished 14th. That's the thing. Okay. I don't know what happened. And the fans gave him a C. Kimi Räikkönen finished in the points. What an absolute hero!
Woo,
going to be an A for me for Kimi. I don't care where he was. Coming off of having COVID, just absolutely smashes it. Great call for the intermediates and P8, wasn't it, in the end? Which would have been amazing in the fight between Williams had George not scored 4 in the last 5 races and basically ended that battle.
Yeah, so no, he's getting a B from me.
Katie?
Okay. I think A is fair with all the criticisms and comments we've made about Alfa Romeo. I feel like we need to praise them when they do well.
So not rating him, just rating the fact we haven't been nice to them for a while. Okay, fair. But that's fine. We can still go with that. Kimi was given an A by the fans as well. And Gio. Gio.
No team radio in a race like that is the worst thing you could ever.
The worst thing ever. We'll give him a C then. Benefit of the doubt.
Classic Gio grade.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't even have team radio and we give him a C. But yeah.
We can't give him any more than that.
No, it's pretty.
A star for driving without eyes.
Where was he running before the rain? Because obviously he couldn't communicate with his team if he thought he should come in for inters.
He was still behind Tsunoda.
And that's all you need to know.
So 18th.
Okay,
I mean, that's almost D territory, to be
honest.
I
was thinking D.
I'm sorry, Gio.
Okay, D.
I'm sticking with a C.
Okay, cool. But we've gone for D, and the fans gave Giovinazzi a C. George Russell scores points again. No one cares. Let's go with A. I mean, he literally put himself third on the grid.
Yeah.
What's Tommy? Are you about to give him a B? I was about to come around your house and slap you.
Yeah, I think it's an A. It's mad though, isn't it? That we're literally qualifies P3 in a Williams, gets points, and it's like pretty good, probably just about an A. That just
no, I never said that. That's you.
That's me.
It's a solid A.
That's me saying that, but that is just
Katie, yours?
It's unbelievable this year, isn't it?
I think obviously the Williams development's doing quite well over the course of the season, or maybe George Russell's just on another level. But yeah, I think an A for that performance.
Okie dokie. We can all just say Nicholas Latifi gets a C. Is that about right? I mean,
he retired at the end of the race, or didn't he? I'm sure it said that he was.
Yeah.
No, because he was still.
He didn't retire. He was classified. It was classified. Whether he actually retired.
It says DNF.
Retire.
DNF. On the final classification, it says DNF.
Technically, still classified.
Yeah. Oh.
It's almost D territory, but
yeah. Actually, no. You know what? Let's give another D. I fancy it. Tommy's like probably a D. I'm like, you know what? Yes. Katie, come on.
Sorry.
It's a family show.
Until it's not.
You were the one that just did middle fingers earlier when you were talking about Fernando Alonso.
I know, unbelievable. Tommy can pay for the demonetization. What did you go for, Katie? For Latifi?
I think, probably a D.
Okay, D. And the fans gave Latifi a C. We are clocking over 2 hours now for this ABCDF1. Mazepin. E.
E, yeah.
What did he do? Just
nothing.
Start last, finish last, pretty much. Yeah.
Maybe there's nothing going on. I mean, no, he unlapped himself on Lando.
It was
D.
2 laps down. I'm still going to E.
Yeah, E. I was what? Oh,
sorry, I put my camera in focus because it was
talk to the hand.
No
listening. Okay, yeah, E. Fair enough. And the fans gave him an F. Shock. And finally, Mick Schumacher, obviously DNF'd. C.
First retirement in Formula One.
Oh.
Okay.
He was beating Mazepin, he gets a C. And he outqualified someone that wasn't a Haas.
Yeah, he did actually.
Gio?
Yeah, Gio, I think it was.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So Mick Schumacher gets a C from us and a C from the fans.
We're
Predictions for the Russian Grand Prix. Oh dear. Bottas on pole. That didn't happen. And Kimi outqualifies Antonio. I assume, yes, he did. He must have if he got beaten by Mick Schumacher. So, yes. Yeah. Yes. Don't you me?
Yeah, he did.
Don't you me? Right. Yes. So that's 1 point for me.
Giovinazzi had a grid penalty, so I can't actually remember if it was.
Let me have a look at it.
It definitely was.
Raikkonen did. Yeah, it was Raikkonen 16th, Giovinazzi in 18th. So
lovely. A point for me.
Well done, Matt.
Thank you. Comes back from COVID and beats him. Lovely. Tommy.
Verstappen not in the top 5
in the race. That was
2 Mercedes and a McLaren on the podium. Nope. So 0 points.
Katie.
Oh. See, I went for track limits controversy, which I don't know how
I think Alonso has caused that.
So I get a point?
No, I don't know if that's track limits. Is that track limits?
I mean,
wait, what was that? Sorry?
Guidelines say
Tommy just absolutely phased out. Then he's literally.
It's because I'm just looking at how you've not put your predictions in for Turkey.
It says B. Good. Carrick, you
Stroll
talk about
qualifies Russell.
You did track limits controversy.
I mean, I would Alonso the first.
It's almost like, is it controversial because he cut the corner and it's almost not a non-issue?
Does
that make it controversy?
What the Team WTF1 members think?
I mean, they love you. Of course, they're going to give you a point.
Yes.
Yeah, of course they are. I don't think it caused much. I don't think it caused much controversy. That's the thing.
It's just hilarious.
It was just hilarious, and we move on. And I don't think there was much.
Well, I think it was controversial.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
It's surprising actually that there's nothing made of it. Which, I mean, if it was Verstappen or Hamilton, it would have been the biggest talking point of the whole race. But that's the way it goes. Katie deserves a point. There you go. Of course, the chat.
Thank you. Thanks, chat. And then I also went with Stroll out qualifies Vettel,
which happened. So
double points.
No, half a point. Half a point for the track limits. That's the beauty of half points. Yeah, don't you start shaking your head. Half point.
Katie, 100 points.
Yeah, 100 points.
Amazing.
Thanks.
The fans, Ruben GNW, Hamilton wins by passing Bottas under team orders. No. S. Marconzo, Alonso podium. No. Kovacs L, Checo podium. No. 0 points for the fans. My predictions for the Turkish Grand Prix. Vettel outqualifies Stroll.
Man who was on pole last time.
Mixed it up the other way
Last
around.
time in Turkey, Stroll got pole.
Yeah, well, not this time.
Okay.
And my second one is Daniel Ricciardo does not make Q3.
Interesting.
Yes.
I've gone for Hamilton and Verstappen, more on-track controversy.
Okay.
Which will probably mean those two are on track at some